Welcome to The Lift with Sheila Robinson-Kiss. Come on in. There's always a special place set aside for you here where you can relax, kick up your heels, pour yourself a nice, refreshing drink, and prepare to be lifted and soar. Thanks so much, everyone, and welcome back. Always nice to connect with you. How to stop fighting with each other. That's the topic of today's video. And so often the videos that I create are based on real life events and circumstances. And this video is no different. Here recently, I received a phone call and it was super late. So I picked up. I always worry when the phone rings late. And on the other end was a gentleman that I had worked with in therapy, and I said, hey, is everything okay? It's very late. What's going on? And he said, I don't know, Sheila. You tell me. What is an emergency? He's like, it might be an emergency. I've been circling my block. I've been circling my block for the last 2 hours, and I just cannot muster up the strength to go in. Why? What's happening? It's been nearly a decade of arguing, fighting, complaining, pitching, and moaning. I just don't think I can do it tonight. I've hit a wall. And he was in a particularly bad situation because he was staying in this because this woman had unleashed that same fury on their children, and he was the buffer in between the mom and the children. And so again, it's easy to say, just leave. Why don't you go? That's not always practical. It's not always practical. And this is a reality-based programming. So if you've watched my videos at all, and I've had commentary, I've made other videos about just the unrest of chronic conflict and fighting. And my philosophy is this: there's 3 choices. You either come to an understanding, you walk in peace. You also have the option to leave. And a third option is you reprogram the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you live so you can cope until you can find a way out or a path out or formulate a plan. I could talk to you about the psychological impact of constant fighting, arguing, the practical and the spiritual. I'm going to start with the spiritual. Spiritually, your spirit is walking with you every step of the way, and constant fighting and just that battering ram of unrest, it just creates disruption in the spirit. You can't sleep, you can't eat, you're constantly worried. Physically, it can manifest as anxiety. And some people go a lifetime, especially if you've dealt with this when you were younger. Some people go a lifetime and they never get over the ravaging effects of this constant unrest, and it's no way to live. It's no way to live. I myself at one point was in a really ridiculously toxic relationship. I can recall just fighting over nonsense. And it took 2 years. I hit a smart rock, got myself out of that situation. It literally took 2 years for me to regroup and just hit the reset button and truly heal. I mean, friends were asking me, oh my God, you're going on another weekend trip? You're going to the spa again? Yes, because there's restoration. I'm coming back. I'm coming back into myself. And I'm here to tell you, a key question to ask yourself: is it worth it? Is it worth it? What I fight for today is my peace. I will go to extraordinary lengths to protect a peaceful, calm environment. I said it once, I'll say it again. The Lord is not the author of confusion. The Lord is not the author of confusion, and I know the Lord is not the author of chronic fighting. So I want to share with you a fresh formula, something to think about if you're in a situation where there's just chronic tension and fighting. Number 1, 3 things I want you to think about. Number 1, be honest. And I mean brutally honest with yourself about what your needs are. In relationships, and this is just just purely a fact, and think about it from every angle. A relationship, whether it's with your sister, your mother, friend, lover, what have you, is only successful to the extent that you're getting needs met. And when I say successful, I mean settled and happy and warm. And so many arguments, the root cause, not the surface cause, but the root cause is you're fighting about a need. You're fighting about a need that's not met. And it's that same consistent argument. You're arguing, but you're not getting to the root cause. And you've got to get to the root. And to do that, you have to be honest about what your needs are. I'm going to give you an example. When I was in that toxic relationship, one crazy night around 3 or 4 a.m., having an argument, for the love of God, about the heat, turning up the heat. Now here we are in the dead of winter. I can see like my frosty breath just about as we're having this argument. And there were similar ridiculous arguments, but it was never truly about the topic at hand. The true argument, the real problem was I had a need to feel safe, comfortable, and respected in the relationship. And that was not happening due to my inability at the time to give voice and be honest with myself about what my true needs are. Because when you're honest about what your true needs are, and that starts within you, you can have the real conversation. And inside of the real conversation, the argument will stop. I guarantee it. If you pull it up, go in the dirt, pull up the root, then you're not going to have a problem again. So it is so important that you walk in this lifetime in all your relationships like, what do I need? What do I need for myself? What am I looking for other people inside of the relationships that I share my life? These are people I'm sharing my life with. Number 2, get naked, metaphorically speaking, meaning to get raw. To stop arguing requires getting raw and vulnerable. Raw and vulnerable. And when you are willing to be vulnerable, it forces you to really take a look at what is the energy that I'm putting into this relationship, and can I actually, it's one thing to be close. You can't say you have a close relationship if you can't move inside of close places. And if that relationship, you can't move safely in the space that is created, what do you have? A lot of people say we're close. Well, can you be vulnerable? Can you talk? And I'm not saying that's everyone that you're dealing with. Some people just don't allow. They don't allow for that space. So what happens if you are dealing with someone, Sheila, I can become raw. I can be vulnerable. They can't. They can't. What do you do then? There's one option then. You have to adjust your expectations. You really do, because communication and to stop arguing, that's really a two-way street. A man had opened up to me that, Sheila, in my relationship, I need more touch. I need more warmth. I need more affection. How is it that nearly with a perfect stranger in a therapeutic setting, I can share all of this and I can't share it with my significant other? Why can't you share it with her? Because when I do, she calls me a punk. She says I'm weak. She actually at times has teased me, like a bully on a playground, and I recoil. So in a situation like that, again, this is reality, because you're only responsible for yourself. You can do all the coaching and teaching you want, but if someone is not open to stepping in that vulnerable place, your hands are tied. So what did he do? He did make an adjustment in his expectations for a couple years where he was starved out for affection and warmth. And he went as far as he could additionally in the relationship, and he found someone else who was willing to provide that warmth and affection. Okay, so what do you do if you're listening to this? And I love the videos myself, these programs, because they're safe space. You can analyze yourself in the safety of your own home, or you're listening to the program in a car. You can go inside yourself and say, am I that person she's describing? It's nothing to feel bad about. I've gone into safe space with myself too. That's why I make these programs. So what do you do if you're the one who really needs to get naked, raw, and vulnerable in the relationship, and you're scared? And you're scared. Here's the formula for that. You shake a little bit. You may cry a little bit. You're going to feel like you're dangling in the wind, and you take a deep breath and you start to practice. You start to practice. Being vulnerable has a lot to do with listening, has a lot to do with sharing how you're really feeling. And I'm telling you, getting good at becoming gaining some mastery and vulnerability is no different than basketball or cooking. The more you practice, the better you're going to become. And I'm not saying be an open book for everyone out here, because that's certainly not me. And some of you say, Sheila, how can you tell the difference? Who can I be vulnerable with? The thing about opening yourself up is you can tell the difference. You start to be able to tell the difference. The more you know yourself, the more you know yourself deeply in relationship to your world and other people. And those safety pockets will reveal themselves. I can remember, and I use the term friend loosely. This is a former friend. I took a risk. And at the time, that was something that was difficult for me to do, to open myself up to have a real conversation, because things were really kept on the surface. Again, reflecting back, that was my fault. Wasn't evolved enough at the time. And this individual wanted to start arguing back and forth with me, said some really mean, disgusting, horrible things. And after the dust settled, and I felt so serene and at peace with myself for knowing that the safe space just wasn't there. That's why this constant back and forth. There wasn't safe space to have a real conversation. And when you don't have that safe space, you go back to the question, what do I have? What do I have anyway? Because any relationship, and hear me loud and clear, worth its salt, worth anything, you are going to hit a juncture where you need to have a real conversation. And arguing back and forth, you're not touching the real conversation, because when you get real, things get very quiet and calm. Third question to ask yourself, third element, are we having a relationship or a prolonged argument? Are we having a relationship here or a prolonged disagreement? A woman asked me, Sheila, I'm tired. When is it okay to leave a relationship? I can't answer that question for anyone. That's a very personal question. But I'll give you an example of the equation I use. If you've been in a relationship for 3 years and the last 2 years you've spent arguing, you may want to look at some alternatives, or you may want to look at an exit. You've been together 7 years. The last 5 are spent arguing. Something's off. Something's off. And is it worth the few morsels you get every once in a while to stay and let your spirit become degraded? Life is fleeting. Life is fleeting, and my philosophy is it should be spent making as many beautiful memories, being productive, being kind, rather than just fighting and discord. I hope you agree with me, and I hope this video has made a difference for you. And lastly, as I always say, if there's still points of contention or confusion, take it to God, ask Him for His advice, and I can guarantee you some nuggets of wisdom are going to drop in very soon. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time.